Hi, I'm Mike Harrington, and in 2014, I embarked on a health journey resulting in my losing over 200 pounds on my own. Since then, I've been sharing my story and have become an advocate for healthy living. Welcome to Mike Inspires Me, a podcast show about health, wellness, and amazing people to inspire you to take charge of your life and your health. Okay, so we're continuing with the series, 7-part series of the key things I did to set myself up for success with my 200-pound weight loss. And if you've been following along, or even if you haven't, last week we talked about part 5, which was how always improving, trying new things, and adapting was an important key into my being able to progress and continue. And today, which leads into one of my more favorite subjects, a part of this series, is we're going to be talking about how I focused on sustainability. So part 6 today is how I focused on sustainability. And there's one thing that, I think that's important to understand with that is this, in my mind, is one of the more pivotal things that helped me maintain. And why don't we, before I start giving it all away, why don't I start and I'll read, as I have been, what I put in the article. Focused on sustainability. I knew that once I lost the weight, I needed to focus on never going back and what it takes to do that realistically. Okay. This is the part where I've seen many people fall back. And in fact, statistics show it's a very high rate. You hear numbers, 89% of, people who lose weight go backwards. Anyway, let me finish reading this here. They relax and go back to their old habits, right? So that's exactly what we're talking about. This is a lifelong commitment. And I learned another key thing. I never really beat obesity. I had to learn techniques to manage it. Another thing that keeps me going is when I discovered that inspiring others motivates me even more. It is such a reward to know that I can share my gift with others. All right. So that's also part of my sustainability. And I'll talk about that one too. That's actually a really interesting point too, because, my becoming a healthy living advocate sort of keeps me where I am, right? I can't talk the talk if I don't walk the walk, right? I'd be a hypocrite, and I don't like being a hypocrite. So sustainability, that's a word we hear a lot all over the place. We hear it when it comes to the environment, right? That's, sustainability and of our environment. And we're, sustainability can apply to a lot of things, but really it just comes down to being able to maintain what you've, I guess, improved, at least in the aspect we're talking about, right? So I've mentioned in the past that, I had lost weight before. Okay. Certainly not 200 pounds and certainly not sustained it, but I had lost large amounts before in my, adult life. And I mean, like many of us, right? Up and down, back up higher, right? I kind of went that, what is it? One step forward, 2 steps back each time, and got heavier and heavier. I didn't want to do that anymore. I knew that, okay, at that point when I finally decided to make this commitment, I mean, I was I'm in my 40s at that time. And, I didn't want to go through all this hard work that I was going to do. And I really had no idea how much work it was going to be. But I didn't want to go through it and then just screw it all up by going back to the old habits. I need to make the changes that I was doing sustainable. They had to be long lasting. I had to be able to keep them up. All right. That is, in my mind, the most important thing in all of this. And in fact, I've been heard to say in the past, you've heard me say, um, it matters probably less how you get there, right? Like I've mentioned Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, lost, I don't know, 100 pounds, I think it was, eating potatoes for a year, supposedly. Um, I mean, I raised my eyebrows at that. Of course, people probably raise eyebrows at my 200 pounds in 11 months. But what matters most is what you do after. Okay. And is what you're going to do after sustainable? And that's why fad diets, to me, they'll get you there. Okay. Keto and all that. And I'm not picking with keto. I've got a lot of friends who've had a lot of success with it, and it's helped people with all kinds of other even health problems besides just managing their weight. But the problem with these fad diets, and I've tried many myself, you just can't sustain them. Okay. You can't live like that. And if you're going on a short-term diet, okay, so that's great. You want to lose 35 pounds. Heck, whatever, 5 pounds. It doesn't matter. You want to lose weight. So you go on this diet, you lose the weight, but then you go back to your old habits. It's not like a once and done endeavor here. This is, when you take steps, I think that's part of the problem too. Let me, I'm changing a thought here. I think part of the problem is we focus too much on weight, right? And we don't look at this holistically as, okay, well, more importantly, I'm improving my health, right? So, you're going to hear me, and I always mention to people that, you can be overweight and healthy, and you can be, quote, I'm doing air quotes here, normal weight and unhealthy. So what is weight really telling you? Not saying when I was 400 pounds, I was healthy, but when you get too focused on the weight, you lose the sight of what's really more important, and that's your quality of life. Okay. So if your habits, your eating habits, your sleep, your stress management, your lack of physical activity, if those things are contributing to poor health, which is contributing to poor physical, mental health, right? Spiritual health, all those things, then, you might want to examine that, and you might want to say to yourself, okay, like if we go back to the diet example, if I'm going to go do all this, I'm going to make this change, right? For temporarily, what am I going to do to sustain? What am I going to do to maintain? What am I going to do to keep everything that I've gained or lost, right? Gained in terms of health, but lost in terms of if we're talking about fat loss, right? I was telling, you heard me preach about this one before too. When people talk about weight loss, weight loss can mean more than just fat, right? When people lose weight, my mom and I were, that's right, it was my mom and I had a conversation the other day, and she said she lost weight, but she felt it was water weight, right? And, and that could be good, having edema and having fluid and having other things in your body can be a sign of another health issue. But really, when people talk about losing weight, they want to try to reduce the amount of visceral fat in their body, the fat around the midsection and other areas, legs, wherever else, right? Stomach, chest, arms. And internally, where you can't see them, where fat can surround your organs, and that's probably one of the more dangerous ones, leads to, a whole host of metabolic diseases and other chronic health issues. I'm segueing a lot, but there's a reason why. And the reason why I'm going down that path is because I'm trying to explain that don't lose sight of the bigger picture when it comes to, I'm not putting down people who say, okay, I'm going to, go on this diet, I'm going to lose weight. That's great that you want to do something. But what I've been on that merry-go-round many, many times, and, and I've seen way too many people go down that merry-go-round, round and round and round, and it's not good for you. It's not good for, I mean, I have my small fluctuations, and I'm not worried about that. That's probably different. It's certainly nowhere near what it was. It's a fraction of what it was in years ago. But and I think in a lot of ways it's normal. But what I see is, when you go on these diet cycles, or you think you can intensely exercise for the next whatever weeks, months, to try to burn off all the sins of your transgressions here of poor eating. Um, you're not really gaining anything long term in terms of, I mean, I did say it matters less as you get there, but I guess if you get there, okay, by, let's just say it's keto diet, right? And you're done, and now you're like, you know what? I can't do this. I've lost, I don't know, the 35 pounds that I wanted to lose on the keto diet. Well, what are you going to eat now, right? Are you going to go back to the same foods that caused you to gain that 35 pounds? And now you've just spent, I don't know how long, 6 months, 4 months, I don't know, whatever, doing a keto diet. And so that's what but do you know what to do if you're going off the keto diet? What are you going to do to sustain that? Do you get what I'm getting at? I mean, I think that, we cut ourselves short when we think that, our health, is a once and done thing. It's a lifelong journey. And a lot of times, I think years ago, I didn't really think much about my health unless it was a problem, right? And so what would be a problem? I'm fat, and I hate being fat, or can't fit my clothes, or doctor tells me I've got high blood pressure, or pre-diabetes, sleep apnea. Like, well, I guess I better do something. But even then, it's like, it was only to get rid of those things. It wasn't really to think about, okay, well, how am I going to, continue to not have those things, right? And it really comes down to those habits that you build. And that's why, for me, this is my opinion. Not to say I wouldn't do what I did before, the way I did things, because I didn't do it. We'll get into more detail in a later talk about the real specific things, how I lost the 200 pounds in terms of, the daily habits. But the important thing is that, I had to set my focus on, okay, I need to learn things that I can, like last podcast, that I can adapt to. So they're almost tied together. The being able to adapt and being sustainable are really hand in hand in my mind. So, I talk about, like, I think I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week, I went camping over, last summer, and I wanted to continue. So we went for like a week up in New Hampshire, and I wanted to continue my strength exercises. So I just brought my suspension trainer and fitness bands, with me, so that we spent, I think, 2 days in a bed and breakfast or something up there, and then we spent the rest, I think, like 5 days up in a campground. But I was able to exercise right there, okay, because the exercise habits that I've built are sustainable. Okay. Now, hardcore gym people probably raise their eye, or, you're not, whatever. This is my exercise, and it works for me. It keeps me strong, keeps me healthy and happy. All right. Yeah. I get it that it's probably not like hitting but it's like Terry always says, it's something's better than nothing. And I'm happy with the bulk and muscles that I have. So if being able to go out and, and use a suspension trainer. I got free weights here at home too. I use those. But it's sustainable. My hiking is sustainable. It, while everybody was crying and complaining they couldn't go to the gym, and this is not bragging, it's literally why I do these things. I was able to continue and not even change almost anything last year. When this whole thing started a year ago, I never stopped. It's like, oh, pandemic, okay, let's see what trails are open around here. And I just kept going, and I've not stopped through the whole pandemic. You guys have seen me. Been working out here, and that's part of the reason I work out at home. What if the gym is closed? What if it's closed? Well, guess what? We found out, didn't we? And not preaching, but I am preaching. And because I'm preaching on sustainability. And I have no problem with going to the gym. But if you don't have a backup plan, if you can't adapt, okay, now we're going back to last week, right? If you can't adapt to, the situation, then you're not going to be able to sustain. If you're going to let, because let's face it, we all know that the pandemic caused a whole host of other side effects from, not being able to socialize and get outdoors and all that for a lot of people, right? And it caused people to overeat, myself included, and, drink and all that. And it hammered not only, we know our mental health certainly suffered, but also our physical health has suffered, right? With a COVID, whatever, 15, I don't know how much they're saying now, but whatever the point is. But through the whole thing, okay, so, and maybe I contradict myself a little bit. I put on a little bit too, but, part of it for me is, mine is more holiday. So I allowed myself to get a little, little excited during the holidays, eating good foods. But the point is, I kept up with my routine. Okay. I didn't have to stop it. I didn't have to say, oh, well, I can't go into public because hiking in the woods is already pretty much socially distanced, and I just kept doing it. When the world goes to heck, hike with Mike is still gonna, that's probably where I'm going to head anyway. When the world starts melting down, I'm heading for the woods, right? But yeah, I mean, that's kind of why, even like the food things I eat, I keep a lot of my foods fairly simple. I'm not going to get into great detail into all of it right now, but a lot of the foods that I eat, I mean, people may cringe at the fact that I rotate, but I eat a lot of the same things, during the week. Now, weekends, I'm a little looser, I'll eat pizza and things, but weekdays, I eat pretty much plant-based during the week, a lot of raw, fresh vegetables and hummus and things like that. And I also, I eat a lot of like split peas, lentils, beans, black beans, kidney beans. I make all kinds of little meals with them, and they're just simple. Just simple. I don't rely on somebody's special meal plan or some special supplements that I got to order from some company that, I needed to learn those things. Why? Because, what if, I don't want to name companies, but we all know the companies that sell all kinds of supplements and plans, and that's great. But what if they go away? What if they go out of business? What are you going to do? Do you know what to do? Why don't you just learn what to eat from nature in the first place, so that you can sustain and adapt when things change? And that's really what sustainability comes down to. All right. So I feel like this one I was excited about it, but it was a little all over the place. But I think to sum it all up, when you embark on a goal, okay, especially when it comes to your health and changing health habits, try to keep your mind focused on how am I going to continue this once I reach the first goal, right? Because the first goal is right X, right? The losing the weight, et cetera, getting rid of your diabetes. Is how am I going to keep that long term? How am I going to sustain it? And those are probably in my mind, the most important things you'll do in your lifelong journey, and hopefully adding years to life and life to years, as I've heard this said, so that you can enjoy the quality of your life and not have to think about things like, well, I'm making myself sick through the habits that I have. You can live a better life through creating better habits, through just some things that we'll talk about next week called small changes, which will lead to bigger results. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I'm sure, as I've mentioned, losing over 200 pounds seems like quite a mountain. And it is, but you just take one step at a time. Looking forward to talking about the final piece in this 7-part series. But I hope you enjoyed today on the subject of sustainability, and stay well. Hey friends, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mike Inspires Me podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes and check out some of the past ones you may have missed. For more information on me and my story, go to MikeInspiresMe.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Mike Harrington Official and on Twitter at Mike Inspires Me. Stay healthy and stay awesome.